Maybe you're spending 8 hours in bed and you're still waking up like you closed your eyes for 20 minutes. Or maybe you already know that you're not getting enough sleep and you've been grinding on it, dialing in the room temperature, the magnesium, the wind down routine, and it's still not clicking. Either way, you've landed on the same wall. You're chasing real, repairing sleep and your body won't hand it over. I want you to know that you're not lazy and you're not broken. You're missing the one stage of sleep that actually does the repair work. And there's a peptide called DSIP, deep sleep-inducing peptide, and that goes straight after it. But here's what almost nobody running it understands. There's a right way to use this peptide and another way that quietly turns it into a crutch that you can't put down. And you're gonna learn how to not fall into that second category. I'm Dr. Jones, DC, and I coach thousands of patients on peptide protocols. I use them myself, and DSIP is one that I get asked about constantly, usually by people who've already tried everything else and they're running out of patience. So let me give you the straight version here. No hype, no fluff, just what this thing is, how it works, and how to use it without getting yourself into trouble. Now, here's the first thing that you need to understand, because it explains why you can sleep 8 hours and still wake up wrecked. Not all sleep is the same. See, the hours don't matter nearly as much as the stages themselves. They call that sleep architecture. And the stage that does the heavy lifting, the one where your body does most of its physical repair and your brain clears out, is deep sleep, slow wave sleep. The brain waves, they're going really slow. We call those delta waves. That's where your system does the bulk of its recovery. You can lie in bed for 9 hours, but if you're barely touching slow wave sleep, delta sleep, your body never gets the signal that the repair shift has started. You wake up technically rested, functionally exhausted. And that gap, hours in bed versus actual recovery, is the whole problem. Now, the name tells you its job. Technically delta sleep inducing peptide, but I like to call it deep sleep inducing peptides. Either way, delta deep, you can't go wrong. Delta waves are the brain waves of deep sleep, and that's exactly what DSIP was named for and built around, nudging your brain towards that delta state. This is a tool aimed at the quality of your sleep, not just increasing the hours. Most sleep aids just knock you out. You're unconscious. They sedate you. And sedation is not the same thing as improving deep sleep. DSIP isn't doing that. It's working with your brain's own machinery to deepen the quality of your sleep, not just switch off the lights. The way it pulls this off is worth understanding because it's also why DSIP does more than just sleep. It modulates those neurotransmitters, the brain chemicals. And those are signals that tell your nervous system whether to stay wired or to start winding down. And it appears to interact with your body's own opioid peptide system, the internal one, not the drug. Now, I want to be precise here because people hear opioid and they panic. DSIP isn't an opioid drug, okay? In fact, it's been studied as an aid for people coming off of those types of medications and alcohol. That's the opposite of something that you get hooked on. And there's no signal that it behaves like a drug of abuse. The honest caveat, researchers haven't fully mapped out exactly which receptors that it touches, so I'm not going to oversell the wiring here. What we can say is it seems to influence that internal calming system, the same one that your body uses to wind itself down, to quiet the stress signaling that keeps you lying there at 2 a.m. with your brain running laps. It's turning down the volume on the noise, not drugging you into silence. This is the part that I want to land, because you've heard me say this on this channel, that deep sleep is the master amplifier, and I mean that literally. Every peptide that you take, every bit of your recovery, fat loss, every ounce of focus, that drive the next day, all of it rides on the quality of your deep sleep. Sleep isn't the thing you do after the real work. Sleep is part of the real work. It's the single highest leverage tool that you already own, sitting right there with you every freaking night. And most people are leaving it completely on the table. So when your deep sleep is broken, you're not just tired, you've kneecapped everything else that you're trying to do. Now, DSIP matters because it works directly on getting that foundation back. It's not another thing that you stack on top of a broken system. It's the tool that repairs the system the rest of your stack depends on. Before we keep going, make sure that that's landed because it's the whole point. DSIP isn't sedating you. It's deepening the sleep that you're already trying to get. Now, real quick, if you're watching this because your sleep has been wrecked for months and you've already burned through the supplements, the sprays, the blue light glasses, and none of it's sticking, that's exactly the kind of thing that my medical team and I can help sort out with you and the patients that we help. See, there's a link in the description, or you could text number on the screen, book that free discovery call if you want to talk through what's actually going on with you and what it's like to work with us and my team. Now, the title of this video says sleep and more, and here's more, because DSIP isn't only working on your sleep, it's working on your stress. Remember how I said it quiets the signaling that keeps you wired at night? Now, that same effect effect looks like it reaches into your stress axis, the system that runs your cortisol and your fight or flight response, the thing that's been stuck on the on position for a lot of you for years. The research connects DSIP to those stress hormone pathways, and a lot of the people using it don't just report sleeping deeper, they report feeling calmer during the day, less of that low-grade hum of tension, quieter the second that their heads hit the pillow. And that makes sense because sleep and stress aren't two separate problems. They're part of the same loop. Stress wrecks your sleep, bad sleep cranks up your stress, and around you go. DSIP gets in the middle of that loop and it breaks it from both sides. Now here's where I need to clear something up, because this is where a lot of you have heard me talk about the other peptides for sleep: sermorelin, CJC, IPA, tesamorelin. So what's the difference, and which one do you actually want? See, here's the distinction, and it matters. Those growth hormone peptides, they work mainly through your growth hormone system. They boost your natural growth hormone pulses, and because growth hormone and sleep are tightly wired together, dialing up that GH rhythm tends to come with better sleep. That's a real effect, but with those, you're aiming primarily at growth hormone, and the sleep tends to come along for the ride. DSIP comes at it from the other direction. DSIP is aimed at the sleep itself, at your sleep architecture and that delta state specifically, rather than primarily at growth hormone. Now, the wiring underneath isn't perfectly clean. GH and sleep talk to each other constantly, but practically, these are pointed at different primary targets. So if your actual problem is that your deep sleep is broken, DSIP is the tool built for the exact job. If you're chasing growth hormone and recovery and you'll take the better sleep as a bonus, that's the growth hormone peptide lane. Different targets, different tools. Now here's the part that most people miss. This isn't an either or. If you're already running a growth hormone peptide and your deep sleep is still broken, DSIP isn't competing with it. It's coming at the same problem from another angle, right? The growth hormone peptide works the growth hormone rhythm. DSIP works the sleep architecture directly. They stack. So the question isn't which one, it's what's actually broken. And if your deep sleep is the thing that's collapsed, you want the tool built for that exact job. Now, whether or not there's a growth hormone peptide already in the mix, that's okay. And this is exactly why I keep hammering the sleep point. Think about what it means here. If your deep sleep is broken and you fix it directly, you're not just sleeping better, you're making every other peptide and every other therapy that you're on work better, because now they finally have the deep sleep that they were always supposed to have, that they were always supposed to be amplified by. You fix the sleep and the whole stack lifts with it. That's the leverage that nobody's using. Okay, so here's the part that I promised you at the very beginning, the line between using DSIP and depending on it. DSIP is a short-term tool, and that's the whole secret. It's a fantastic lever to pull when your sleep has fallen off of a cliff. A stretch of brutal stress, a loss, a surgery that you're recovering from, a season where your whole system is just wrecked and you need to get your deep sleep back online fast. For a window like that, think short, on the order of a couple weeks to maybe 1 or 2 months, DSIP can be exactly the right move. And I want to be straight here about why you should run it short. It's not that there's some official protocol carved out in stone, right? This all peptides, we're still trying to figure it out. It's that we don't have good long-term data on this peptide yet. So the smart, cautious play is use it as a short-term tool. Get your deep sleep back on, let your nervous system reset, and then wean off. Now the mistake, and I see this constantly, is when people decide DSIP is the answer forever. They feel the first stretch of real sleep, it's incredible, and they think, that's it, I'm staying on this. And a few months in, they tell me, if I miss a dose, I'm right back to waking up at midnight. See, that's the trap. They just propped it back up. You see, here's how I want you to think about it. You've heard me say peptides are amplifiers. They work on top of a foundation. They don't replace one. DSIP isn't going to be any different. It can repair your sleep and buy you the window, but it's not a substitute for fixing whatever broke your sleep in the first place. The chronic stress, the schedule, the alcohol, the screens, the underlying metabolic stuff, that's the actual job. DSIP just gives you the deep sleep back long enough so that you can go out there and fix it. Use the window, fix the foundation, then step off the tool. That's the entire difference between people who use DSIP well and people who get stuck on it. Now, I do want to say this. Some of you will take DSIP, it will fix your sleep, you change nothing, and you'll get off of it, and you'll be sort of permanently repaired. Hate to use the word permanent, but you get my point. DSIP was the actionable thing that put your body into a better state of repair where it was able to address whatever knocked it off of its good rhythm of continual deep sleep. So that is a real thing, but we're just saying that if you want to maximize your results, don't just rely on the DSIP, consider it an open window, go through it and do the work. Repair your sleep with known research-based evidence-based sleep improvement strategies. Now, does it work? In the patients that we coach and prescribe to, yeah, and sometimes faster than you would expect. I had one patient who'd been fighting his sleep for the better part of a year, tracking it on a wearable device, watching his deep sleep flatline night after night, and within a few nights of starting DSIP, just literally 2 nights, deep sleep numbers climbed measurably on the tracker, not just as a vibe. This is the kind of response that makes people want to live on it, and that's exactly why the boundary matters so much. So here's a question. If you started DSIP tonight, would you actually know when to stop? Because here's the truth about DSIP, and honestly, every peptide that we cover, the mechanism is the easy part, but the judgment is the hard part. When do you start? How long is your window? When do you wean? Does it play nice with other things that you're already taking? Those are the questions that actually decide whether this works for you or it blows up on you. And if you're on other medications and you can't get a straight answer about whether DSIP is a problem in the mix, or you've asked around 3 times and still don't have an answer that you trust, that's exactly the gap that we're built to fill. So here's what we do differently. A lot of these telemed clinics write the prescription and they're just gone. But that's not how we work. We get your peptides from our partner 503A pharmacies, real pharmacy products, not a research vial off of some overseas site with "not for human consumption" sticker right all over it. And you get a medical team that you can actually reach via text or phone. Real humans for the moments that when you're standing there with the vial and a question, not a ticketing system, not scheduled check-ins, on-demand clinical backup from someone running their own protocol, right? Running your protocol if you're working with us. You can text number on the screen or check out the link in the description to book that free call. Talk with one of our patient educators. We'll get a read on what you're trying to do and walk you through whether it's a fit and explain how the intake call with the medical team works. Now, quick note before you book, we provide medical oversight on the peptides that we prescribe. If you've already got DSIP or anything else from another source and you're just looking for someone to sign off on it, then we're not the right fit. I'd rather tell you that now. One more thing, if you've landed on this video because your sleep problem is really masked by a weight problem at the same time, and you want something that goes after the root cause of your weight issues, more than just peptides. We got an entire coaching department for exactly that, and I actually lead that coaching department myself. Same number, either way, let them know when you talk to my team. Look, I told you all through this video that deep sleep is the amplifier everything else rides on. So if you're running peptides and you want to know the rest of the lifestyle levers that decide whether they actually work, I broke that down in this video right here. So go watch it. It's the other half of this conversation, guys. We'll see you later.